The twin suns of Uria III painted its seas with ribbons of gold and silver, as if the heavens themselves had braided light to honor the last princess of a fading dynasty. Princess Thalara stood before a mirror of memory glass, her reflection shifting with every heartbeat. She adjusted the violet robe of her station, a garment alive with nanofibers that shimmered in hues of dawn. Behind her, attendants whispered nervously, reminding her for the 100th time that humans had peculiar customs. They drank bitter bean water called coffee. They laughed too loudly. They mistook solemnity for humor. And today she was to marry one. It was not love that led her here, but survival. The Irian Empire, weakened by centuries of decline, needed Earth's influence and resources. Earth, eager but inexperienced in the galactic stage, needed Uria's wormhole networks and living technology. A marriage between the last Irian princess and a human diplomat would bind their two worlds with blood. Or at least with ceremony. For Thalara, the bargain cut deep. She was the final heir of a royal house plagued by what scientists called lineal entropy, a genetic disorder that had robbed her people of heirs for generations. She carried the weight of a bloodline that could no longer continue. The marriage was her duty, but it was also a reminder of her failure to provide what dynasties demanded most: children. When the grand chamber opened, the spectacle was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. The ceiling was a living holograph, projecting each guest's homeworld above their heads. Delegates gasped as 1,000 planets shimmered overhead. And in the center, awkward in his dress uniform, stood Kyle Varel, her husband-to-be. He was nothing like the composed, grave suitors she had expected. His hair was slightly tousled, his smile too wide. When he bowed, it was clumsy, and he whispered, "Do I bow before or after I mess up your name?" The joke was poorly timed. Yet for the first time in years, Thalara laughed. A sharp, crystalline sound. The entire chamber froze, shocked that the solemn princess had broken form. Kyle flushed scarlet, fumbling. "Was that wrong?" "Entirely unforgivable," she answered, her lips curved. "Try again." The marriage ceremony bound them with rings forged of neural circuitry. When their hands touched, the bands pulsed with warmth, sharing faint impressions of thought. Kyle startled. "It's scanning my secrets, isn't it?" "Only the embarrassing ones," she replied. And so the treaty was sealed. The luminous princess who could not bear heirs, and the human diplomat famous for improvisation. The galaxy witnessed their union with skepticism, some with amusement. But for Thalara, something unspoken stirred. It was not affection, not yet. But as Kyle nearly tripped while leaving the altar, flashing her a sheepish grin, she realized this alliance might not unfold the way her elders predicted. The luminous pact, their shared vessel, was a ship of light and silence. Its walls pulsed faintly like living coral, and its halls hummed with the resonance of Irian technology. For Kyle, it was breathtaking. For Thalara, it was simply another gilded cage. At first, their life together was an awkward arrangement. Kyle cluttered their quarters with Earth relics, mugs, paper books, old vinyl records. He brewed dark, bitter coffee in defiance of Irian protocols, insisting the ship needed the smell of mornings. Thalara disapproved, or at least pretended to, but found herself drawn to the warmth his chaos brought. He teased her when her ears glowed faintly during debates. She corrected his clumsy Irian grammar with icy patience. Their exchanges were sharp, often humorous, and to the shock of the attendants, she sometimes laughed. Over time, their rhythm softened. They stood side by side in negotiations, Kyle disarming hostile envoys with jokes, while Thalara anchored talks with regal precision. He respected her authority without fawning, and she began to see that beneath his careless charm was a mind that adapted swiftly, a heart that trusted deeply. Then everything changed. During a council session on the outer colonies, Thalara faltered. A wave of dizziness overtook her, her skin luminescence flickering erratically. Kyle caught her before she collapsed, carrying her himself to the ship's medical wing. The physicians worked quickly, scanning with crystalline instruments. Minutes later, silence filled the chamber. The results defied everything science had claimed. Against all expectation, against generations of sterile royal blood, the Lara was pregnant. At first she refused to believe it. The curse of her line was absolute. Every attempt had ended in sorrow. Yet the data was irrefutable. Within her, a small pulse of light and rhythm had formed. A hybrid spark, part Aryan, part human. The doctors called it a miracle. Politicians whispered of destiny. Some scientists trembled, fearing an anomaly that might disrupt the natural order. The Lara, however, felt only awe and terror. She touched her abdomen as if it were fragile crystal. "It cannot be," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Kyle sat beside her, wide-eyed but steady. "It can," he said simply. "And it is." His hand hovered uncertainly, then rested lightly over hers. For once, his usual flood of words failed him. All he managed was, "We'll figure this out. Together." News of the pregnancy spread like fire across the stars. To some, it was a sign that the Aryan dynasty might yet survive. To others, it was dangerous, proof that two species could cross boundaries thought unbreakable. Debates raged in secret councils. Should the child be celebrated, studied, or contained? The Lara felt the weight of eyes upon her from every corner of the galaxy. Yet in the quiet hours, when only Kyle remained at her side, she found a strange calm. His presence grounded her, reminding her that this was not just a matter of treaties and legacies. It was life itself, fragile and luminous, blooming where it had no right to exist. Whispers of Thalara's pregnancy traveled faster than any ship. To allies, it was a marvel. To rivals, it was a threat. But to the war, an ancient species steeped in prophecy, it was something far greater, a warning. The war were feared across the galaxy, not for their armies, but for their conviction that destiny could not be defied. Their chronicles spoke of a child born of two worlds, a being whose existence would upend balances of power and unravel empires. And when their seers confirmed the rumors, they came. The luminous pact was intercepted near a neutral starfield. A fleet of war vessels surrounded the cruiser, their black hulls absorbing starlight until they seemed like holes in the cosmos itself. Their leader appeared through holographic projection. A tall, translucent figure, its voice both echo and whisper. "Princess Lara of Uria, human Kyle Varel, you carry what must not exist. The union of your bloodlines defies order. Surrender the child, and balance shall be restored." The chamber went still. Thalara's ears flickered with shock, but her voice was steel. "You would demand a life not yet born? You dare place prophecy above choice." The war's gaze was unblinking. "The child is not yours alone. It belongs to the cosmos. And the cosmos has spoken." Kyle stepped forward, fists clenched though his opponent was only a projection. "With all due respect to your cosmic balance," he snapped, "no one is taking our kid." For a moment, the alien silence pressed down like gravity. Then the hologram dimmed, and the war fleet closed its ring around the cruiser. The demand was clear: surrender or be destroyed. In the war room, panic rippled through the crew. Advisors urged negotiation. Some whispered of sacrifice, others prayed. But the Lara stood tall, her hand resting gently on the swell of her abdomen. She remembered generations of emptiness in her line, remembered the despair of believing no child would ever bear her name. And now that life flickered within her, she would not hand it over to prophecy or fear. "This child," she said, her voice carrying through the command deck, "is not a weapon nor an omen. It is proof that hope survives even in the ashes of dying bloodlines. I will not surrender hope." Kyle, ever less poetic, added, "And if they want to fight, well, I've always been a quick learner." The crew rallied, but the odds were grim. The warships outnumbered them 5-1, each armed with weaponry designed to erase fleets. As tension mounted, rumors of an ancient Aryan prophecy resurfaced. One that spoke of a light born from twilight blood, who would turn back the void. Some said Thalara's unborn child was the fulfillment. Others said it was doom disguised. The Lara herself no longer cared for prophecy. All she knew was that for the first time in her life, she carried something worth defying empires for. And if the war wished to test her resolve, then they would learn what it meant to threaten a mother who had thought she could never be one. The siege of the Luminous Pact stretched into days. The war fleet held its position like an eclipse, black vessels blotting out starlight, their patience colder than the void. Every message carried the same ultimatum: surrender the child. Every refusal only deepened the tension. But within the ship, something far more urgent was unfolding. Thalara's body convulsed with waves of pain and light, the early signs of labor, weeks before expected. Medics rushed her to the biochamber, its walls blooming with bioluminescent vines that pulsed in rhythm with her heart. Cal never left her side, his hand gripping hers, whispering stories from Earth about long nights, small victories, and how he had once thought fatherhood impossible. Hours felt like eternities, but at last, the chamber filled with a piercing cry. Not mechanical, not alien, but wholly alive. The child's body glowed faintly, a soft radiance threaded with the steady beat of a human heart. They named him Elune, a word from Irian tongue meaning light after darkness. When the war sensed the birth, they acted. Their ships powered weapons, preparing to strike before destiny could take shape. Yet something happened they had not foreseen. As Elune's first cry echoed through the cruiser, every Irian biostructure across the ship resonated, amplifying the sound into a harmonic wave. The energy rippled outward, reaching the war vessels. Sensors recorded impossible data. Their weapons faltered, hulls quivered, and even the seers who had demanded the child clutched their temples in shock. Elune's cry had awakened something older than prophecy, a resonance that threaded through living systems, bending the void itself. The war leader appeared again in projection, but this time its voice trembled. The cycle has shifted. The prophecy was not of destruction, but of renewal. The child is balance restored. For the first time, the fleet withdrew. Black ships turned like shadows unraveling, vanishing into the star lanes without another word. The galaxy had been braced for war, but war did not come. What came instead was silence, the silence of possibility. In the days that followed, the universe's gaze turned fully upon the small family aboard the Luminous Pact. Some hailed Elune as a savior. Others feared what powers might grow within him. But Kyle and the Lara shielded their newborn from the frenzy. They refused to let him become a symbol before he could even learn to breathe freely. Months later, the cruiser docked on a quiet moon, far from councils and courts. There, among forests that glowed with silver moss, they built a home. Kyle planted earth crops in alien soil, teaching the Lara the absurd patience of tomatoes. The Lara, once so solemn, walked barefoot through the moss with her son in her arms, her ears glowing softly with a joy she had thought forever denied. One night, as stars rippled overhead, Kyle asked her, "Do you ever think about what he might become? All the things people say he's destined for." The Lara pressed Elune closer to her chest. "Prophecies are chains. I will not place them on him. He is not a symbol, not to me. He is simply ours." And as Elune stirred in his sleep, a tiny spark of light glimmered from his skin, blending with the starlight. It was neither Irian nor human, neither prophecy nor curse. It was something new, a future unimagined, born from love where only duty had been expected. For the galaxy, Elune might be destiny, but for the Lara and Kyle, he was simply their child. And that was miracle enough.